Atmapadesh Satakam, verse number 38. And this verse deals with all can be other and all can be the same. The same theme of Anya and Sama, same, other and sameness. What is known as many is the other, and what shines forth as one is sameness. Having known the state which is going to be spoken of and attained release, remain dissolved and blended in the state of sameness. These words are to be understood in a very special way. In the usual Malayalam sense, Nivarnu means a person becoming upright. In Natarajaguru's commentary, he has taken it in that sense. But I am taking it from the original Sanskrit source, in that there are two complementary terms, pravritti, the path of action, and nivritti, the path of release. Those who are caught in the path of action get entangled in many action-reaction situations and bondages of karma. One who works out his release from this is called nivritti. I am taking the word nivarnu in this sense as one who is finding his release. So among Indian texts we also have the two paths, the pravritti marga and nivritti marga. So the way of the Vedas is considered to be the pravritti marga, the way of progress, expansion. And the way of wisdom or the way of Vedanta and the Upanishads is nivritti marga, path of release or letting go, relinquishment, renunciation, etc. There are various differentiating prejudices in which our mind is caught. Regaining the mind from such bigotry is also to be understood as nivarnu. A man may believe he is a Christian or a Muslim, that there is no other true religion, and that if you do not find your salvation that way, you are doomed forever. Well, that's the usual preaching of prophetic religions. His mind is caught in a certain way of thinking. It may be well and good for him, but it pits so many other people against him, and he cannot share his life with them. In this way, we make factions and differentiations, which are the basis of conflict. How we release our minds from such kind of bigotry is what the present verse explores, how to free the mind. A special term here is samyamelam. Samyam means likeness. Someone may be playing tennis and someone else football. Superficially, it looks quite different. But if you look for identity, you can see both are sports and both give entertainment and physical exercise. The mode may look outwardly different, but still there is samya, likeness. Another word to understand is kala. It is a term that comes in yoga and tantra. It is to be understood in the context of two other words, nada and bindu. Nada is the subtle vibration of sound. Our whole body itself has an unbroken sound, which the yogis called anahata. The central focus of your psychophysical life is called bindu. When you are breathing up and down, it is likened to a mantra, which is said to be equivalent to the articulation of hamsa. That is a sound in the nostrils as you breathe in and out. It creates that hamsa sound. So that can also become a mantra to show of an unbroken sound going on within us. It can find its own center or bindu. When you concentrate your consciousness in any of the synergic centers means the chakras. Yes, it is as if consciousness is flowing or streaming centripetally and centrifugally. Centripetally means it is coming to the center, coming close, inward. Centrifugal means it is going out. So these are the two movements. It can be moving inward, you call it central force when it comes to the center. Centrifugal force is when it spreads out. If you spin something, it will spread out. So that is a centrifugal force. So centrifugal, centripetal. When a certain interest develops from the center of your being, it enlarges and becomes a whole field of interest. As a function, this aspect of the self is called kala. If you are looking for differentiation, the kala will be seeing differences everywhere. If you are looking for unity, then you will find 100 reasons for seeing all as the same. One has to cultivate the kala of sameness as a functional reality, not just as an idea. So he gives example like when the interest is developing from our center and it goes out, that causes differentiation. It makes you see differences. If you are looking for unity, then you will find 100 reasons for seeing all as the same. So we have to cultivate, one has to cultivate the kala of sameness as a functional reality, not just as an idea. How to do that? We will be told how to cultivate the sameness. When we examine our external tastes, we see that they differ very much. One man's meat is another man's poison, as they say. In the Gospel according to St. Luke, chapter 13, Jesus says, "If you think I have come to bring peace, nay, that's not it. What I have brought is division. In a house of 5 people, 3 will be against 2. In a house of 3 people, 2 will be against 1. I have placed a discordance between father and son, between mother and daughter, between the son-in-law and the father-in-law." So that is mentioned in the Bible itself. So what's with all this discord? When we think of Jesus, we think of unity. So it's hard to understand the statement. We can find sense in it only when we think that the unifying factor is transcending the pettiness of all relativistic considerations. In this world, everybody is full of relativism, and therefore there is no agreement. The agreement can come only when you transcend this and see the Lord or whatever. So he's speaking of relativism and pettiness. These are all the considerations people have which brings disagreement. We take into account small things. Absolutism is freedom, or you're following your own path. Relativism is when you compromise or you have any other interest, then it is relativism. So these two factors are always there in people's minds, which causes them to get into discord. So all the discord is coming from such sources. Absolute, there is no discord. So next, the Mahabharata example, the children of 2 brothers became a divided family, a divided home. There 100 people were pitted against 5. The divisions multiplied. Those who were loyal to the 5 became one group, and those who were loyal to the 100 were another. They decided to fight, and there was a great battle. When Arjuna came to the battlefield wanting to wage war, he was asked to look at his enemies. When he looked around, he was surprised to see his friends on all sides. He couldn't believe he was standing there bearing arms against his own grandfather, his own teachers, his cousins and best friends. He thought, how can I fight these people? How could I go on living after killing my best friends, my close relatives? What is the meaning of life? So this is the Vishada Yoga, the first chapter. When he asks Krishna to put the chariot in the middle of the battlefield, so he sees both sides. He's looking for his enemies, but he doesn't see any enemy. He sees only his friends, his relatives, and his elders. So then he says, what is the meaning of my life if I have to kill them? That's a famous line. From there the Gita starts actually. So on all sides we have discord, division, strife. What Jesus said may seem very cruel, but it only acknowledges what is happening in most houses and most families. The husband is against the wife, children are against both. One year we may find them in great love, saying, God is showering His special mercy upon us. The next year they are at the marriage counselor and then the divorce court. What is all this? It is called Anya. Narayana Guru says that this tendency is seen everywhere. differentiating, separating, breaking away, alienating, rejecting. The rivers of tears that are shed because of this have no end. So that is the sama anya. When he spoke of sama and anya, sameness and the other. This is the other tendency that people have, which causes all this pain and suffering. So there is another way. There is a way out. It is called sama, cultivating sameness. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, a whole series of verses is given to tell you how to cultivate sameness. First of all, there is need to be a basis for sameness. In the Bible, the basis is to love your Father, your God, with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. Then what happens? You find that all mankind has the same Father, which makes everyone brothers and sisters. Then we become responsible and committed to each other. We become each other's caretaker. We share and care for each other because we belong to the same Father. The first statement brings a corollary, to love your neighbor as yourself. Sama, sameness comes when you say, as your own self. So the very Jesus who said, I have brought division, also gives the antidote. The absolute nature of all your soul and all your heart means you have no selfish reservation. It is a total consecration. You are giving up completely. Today, then he talks of a personal antidote or personal example. Today I was writing to a person who occasionally asks for counseling from me, a very wonderful person full of love, piety, devotion and great love for God and for other people. But there is always one spark of doubt in the mind. It is a very tiny spark that snowballs and becomes a big cloud of darkness and confusion. Then for 6 months everything turns out to be meaningless and frustrating. My advice was to give up that tiny little doubt and to be without any kind of reservation, to love totally. When you wholeheartedly give, then you receive in full measure. In the 6th chapter of the Gita, Krishna says, be established in me. What makes a thing what it is its beingness. A thing becomes stable because of its beingness. Know me to be that beingness. Without me, nothing can be, because I am the beingness. After having found it, feel devoted to it. Let your love flow towards it as the one beingness in all, as the one beingness which makes truth truthful, goodness good, beauty beautiful, love endearing. So that is an interesting thing. That beingness, that our Sat in us, the beingness in us, our existence, that itself is what we have to get in touch with and then see that same beingness is in all. Actually, I will expand that to say in every situation where you experience some kind of beauty or goodness, you find that point in you. And you can then relate with that as the beingness towards all. So after having found your beingness, feel devoted to it and let your love flow towards it as the one beingness in all, as the one beingness which makes truth truthful, goodness good, beauty beautiful, love endearing. You cultivate this through constant meditation. I am not speaking of meditation as sitting cross-legged with eyes closed or some such. Life itself is a meditation. Everything passing in our life is a theme for meditation. When you say this exists and this does not exist, what enables you to say it is that beingness. That is what we are asked to adore as the one God. It is up to your taste to call it God or the supreme principle or the reality or beingness or whatever what you poetically feel within you as the greatest empathy you can have, the sense of beauty you feel as an artist, the great love you feel as a lover. In all these, there is a substantiality of beingness. You sense it from your heart. Then the Gita says to see that as your own central reality. You're constantly saying, I am, I am, I am. What assures you of that I am is the light within you. I am that is just like saying, I am that I am. See it as the absolute in you. Thus, having found beingness as the reality of everything and as your own reality, it is easy to see that the real in you and the real in all other things are the same. This is how you gain the secret of sameness, samyam. It will bring you great serenity, great peace. When you are seeing sameness but others are not, will you still have peace? Does this work when others do not see it? If your children are restless and they are shouting and running around the house, you just think, well, it's their age, they are young and have a lot of energy. In my childhood, we were all like that also. If I love my children, I should allow them to have their free expression. Let them play. How happy are my children when they are so exuberant? Then you don't feel annoyed. You rejoice that your children are healthy and cheerful, running around and making a lot of noise. So if you think of the others, you are not disturbed. But if you think only of yourself in isolation, it could be very irritating. If the children are not yours but your neighbors, they are even further outside the small circle you draw around yourself. The anyata comes here. They are not mine. They belong to someone else, the other. If they come running into your house and raising a ruckus, you at once feel hatred. You drive them away. Don't they have their own house to make noise in? Why should they come and bother me when I have things to do? You cannot bear them for even 5 minutes. Your drishti, how you look at it, has changed. When you know that the self in you and the self in others is the same, that knowledge brings maitreyi, compassion. If someone is mentally upset, you don't just tolerate it. You embrace that person and share their feelings in order to help. Cultivation of this compassion brings about fellowship. Compassion, he is to define it as compassion. Passion, make your passion and then the other passion same. Compassion. That is compassion. When your compassion becomes a functional reality, kala, then it is as if you are melting into it. The idea of kalarnirannu in this verse is that you melt into the state of the functional reality of your vision of oneness. So there is always a state of melting, sinking, dissolving. These are words we usually use when we talk of spiritual life. You're sort of, the salt doll is going to measure the ocean. A salt doll, it will dissolve, it will become the ocean. Similarly, our individuality, our sense of separation, you dissolve it, you melt it, and then you become one with all. So you don't see yourself as different from others. The idea of kalarnirannu is this, in this verse, is that you melt into the state of functional reality of your vision of oneness. It's an interesting thing. He calls it the functional reality of your vision of oneness. It's not a passive thing, it's a functional thing. Samya melam is when the feeling of oneness is felt from within as an experience of universality. You don't see yourself as different from others. Everyone is free to advocate their own religion, their own way of life, eat their own kind of food, and speak their own language. You have taken away all the barriers in your mind. You think it's okay, it's all mind. All the three worlds are mind, and these are my kinsmen. I don't have any sense of differentiation. It has become Maitreyi, true fellowship. You bring about oneness through wisdom, compassion, and fellowship. At this juncture in the Gita, Arjuna says to Krishna, this is from chapter number 6, verse number 34, where Arjuna says, Chanchalam and Pramati and Balavad Dhridam. He uses 3 words, Chanchalam, Pramati, Balavad Dhridam. Changeful, and second is agitated, Pramati. And Balavad Dhridam, very stubborn, very forceful, imperative in character. That's the nature of the mind. How can we change that mind? That's Arjuna's question. When Krishna was trying to tell him about yoga, Arjuna said, but the mind is so restless. and it is so agitated, and it is so stubborn, kind of forceful. How can I change it? So he says, then Krishna says, that is so, my dear, mind cannot be forcibly controlled. Sometimes it is like a whirlwind, but don't you see that the mind is not a whirlwind all the time? Your mind may be restless for a little while. It may smoke and fume, but after some time it calms down. And when it does, you have access to it. That is the time to show it the right way. When the mind is sitting calmly, show it there is no need to boil. Your true nature is divine, and everything is a manifestation of the divine. Don't feel agitated. Deep down, the mind understands. The next time it raves, somewhere it will know that this is not the right thing to do, and it will settle down faster than the previous time. In this way, Krishna shows how to gently tame your mind by detaching yourself from the things with which you are infatuated. So that is a problem of mind gets attached to things, and that is the cause of its disturbance. So many things are happening in the world. We read so many things in the newspaper, we see so much on TV, but it doesn't disturb us. We just see it. Maybe a little bit we feel, oh. But if something of our personal thing goes, then we feel very, very agitated. That's because we have got infatuated, we got attached, or we are dependent on it. Then it creates a lot of problems. And how? By continuous abhyasa. Of course, in the Gita, the two words he uses, abhyasa and vairagya. So these are the ways, also the technical terms. Also, how by continuous abhyasa, continuous practice, you can make it to learn to love everything as aspects of the one being, or the one supreme. How by maintaining vairagya, detachment, and doing abhyasa continuously, you will one day be able to make your mind fully in harmony with your vision of oneness. So that is it. So cultivation of doing abhyasa regularly and maintaining vairagya, detachment. The meditation of this verse is to watch for the many tendencies to close down or become narrow in your vision. Instead, enlarge your boundaries and thus find your nivritti, your release. Only then will the functional reality of seeing oneness become a persistent way of life. So again, he uses this functional reality. It should be a reality that functions, not just a theory. It has to function. So the free translation, what is known distinctively as separate and specific entities is the other. What shines forth as the indivisible whole is sameness. This is going to be elucidated hereafter. Having known these states, verticalize knowledge and learn the art of unifying consciousness in the inclusivity of sameness. So this will be elaborated more in the next ones. To continue with these forces. In verse 39, again we'll be learning more about these two forces, other and same. So these are the two divisions, as he said in 6, he said, power of knowledge is endless, arivina shakti anantam. And the end of all this can be marked as sameness and the other. Thus, in this way, there are two divisions. So our knowledge can be divided into only these two sections. Either it is functioning as otherness or it is functioning as sameness. Anya and Sama. And the Anya aspect will cause many troubles to us, and sameness brings us oneness, peace, happiness, etc. So we have to overcome that tendency of the mind which naturally comes up for the Anya, which is developing Anya. And he quotes from Bible also saying that even Jesus said that he is come to divide. So this tendency to divide is there. We have to overcome that by cultivating the functional reality of oneness. That Akhanda Viveka Shakti, we should have that Akhanda Viveka Shakti to include the other person. Whom we were rejecting or whom we are excluding, we should have the ability to start including that person. That requires a bigness of heart and better understanding, deep understanding, compassion, Maitreya, fellowship, friendship, etc.